You sound great, and just pulled your QRZ page, and I'm no match for I'm no match for what I see on your page. So I hope I sound okay. Name here is Claude, Charlie Lima, Alpha, Uniform, Delta, Echo. I'm located about 15 miles northwest of Montreal, Quebec, in the Lower Laurentians, and running the Hermes Lite transceiver into a small QRP amp, drive amp, into an ACOM 1010 amplifier. And yeah, the antenna is a small, compact 2-element beam. Very compact antenna, so I'm way out of communication. The antenna is resonant at 7.125, so here it's way out. So yeah, I hope I sound okay. I'm far from having all the gear I see on your page there, but yeah, you sound awesome. No wonder why, and I hope you hear me okay. WA3VJB. This is Victor Alpha 2 Charlie Sierra Tango. Over to you, Paul.
Okay, Claude, very good. Nice to make your acquaintance. VA2CST, northwest of Montreal, on the Hermes Lite SDR transceiver. Yes, it sounds very good, actually. I even made a little recording of it because I don't know if I've encountered one of those before. WA3VJB making a transmission from Annapolis, the capital of Maryland. And yes, the 2-element beam sounds interesting. The Europeans on AM tend to hang out around 7160. And I had just posted a message over on a Facebook page that caters to the AM community across Europe, primarily the UK, but also Germany and South America. And I was wondering whether I should try to tune down there to see what kind of activity I could stir up now that it's a little bit longer in the evening for the stations across the pond. So your antenna being tuned for 7125 is certainly in the neighborhood there for AM activity on 7160. If you ever were to encounter some carriers there, here in North America, you're liable to be hearing our brethren across the pond there in Europe and the UK. So beware of that. Well, all my gear is old, really. There's a lot of it. And it seems like the older the gear, the greater the grip on gravity that it has, Claude. So I tend to discount the sheer volume of stuff that are in the pictures. But it's a lot of fun to use. A lot of it has been cast off from radio stations over the years, commercial broadcast stations over the years, when they went to internet-based or IP address mixing consoles or transmitters that are more modern than the columns that you see off to the left there in the main station picture. That one dates back to 1946, for example. And the homebrew transmitter over on the right side dates back to 1953, so it's turning 70 years old this year. And the board itself, the RCA console that you're seeing in the bigger picture, that dates to 1948. It has octal tubes, and it came from a radio station in Pennsylvania, among the examples of stations that I was talking about that have converted over to IP-based mixing consoles that can be controlled from a computer screen. Certainly not the RCA Type 76. And a lot of it is very useful here among us on the shortwave bands. And I dearly love the aroma of hot dust on tubes. So here in the summertime, of course, it does heat up the room a little quicker, and I've got the air conditioning turned on. I wonder how far away you are from the wildfires. Speaking of aromatic effluvia, we were catching quite a bit of your wildfire smoke from north of the border, Cloud, and it actually obscured visibility on our hikes. We live out in the country here, and we have a couple of Labrador retrievers, and they like to take their 2-mile hike every day. And we actually had to skip a couple of days because the air quality had deteriorated to such a great extent that it was making our eyes burn and probably giving them some respiratory trouble too. although they didn't seem to mind on the one day that we did try to make a try at it. So I wonder how close you are to those fires there, Claude. Hopefully nowhere near, but at the same time, nice to hear you on the air here with the Hermes Lite. It's doing a fine job, and thank you for the comments here too. Signal strength, I'm listening to you on an ITT McKay. That's the black-faced receiver in one of those pictures. It's a commercial shipping receiver. It's actually solid state, one of the newer pieces of gear here. It's only 40 years old. And it's probably got you at about 10 over 9, I'm going to guess. It's across the room from the mixing console, so I can't see the meter on it. But I'm guessing, based on the interference that's near the frequency and the basic level of signals up and down the band, that you're probably about 10 over 9 here in the Chesapeake Bay region of Maryland, Claude. So back to you, and hopefully the signal's holding up. VA2CST, northwest of Montreal. WA3VJB, Annapolis. Go ahead.
All right, Paul. Well, and while you were talking, not only you have real broadcast equipment on your end, but your voice also is very well. How do I say this? Sorry, by the way, I speak French here, so you have to bear with my lousy English. But your voice is made for a broadcast, and I suspect that you might have work in broadcast maybe, but you have a voice for broadcast, and I have a recording of you. I think you were calling. It's here on my desktop. And you were calling CQ. That sounded very, very nice. I got you on AM 80 meters, and I was listening to you to web SDR, QE SDR station. So, yeah. Well, as for the forest fires, they are a little bit up north in northern part of Quebec, and those fires are about 300 to 600 kilometers away from Montreal. But yeah, last week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of last week, the air quality was very bad. We could see in the sky a strange tint, and there was also the air was thick also, and we could smell the fire. That was early this past week, and beginning in the middle of the week, we got a little bit of rain and temperature dropped down a little bit. So, and probably the winds have changed direction, and it got a little bit better. But even being at 300 or 600 kilometers south from those fires, still hitting us here near Montreal, Quebec. I'm in the Laurentian region, in the lower Laurentian regions. Up north from me are the ski mountain resorts, maybe 50 to 100 kilometers north from me. So during winter time, this is where the sport happens. Ski and snowmobiling on the lower part of the Laurentian, on the suburb of Montreal. This is where I am. And it's a little bit calmer here also instead of Montreal. There's a lot of activity here. It's a little bit more calm. So probably not as calm as where you are, but yeah. I wish someday I'll be able to get move away from where I am right now and have a little bit more lot and probably up north and have more fun on radio. When I bought the place here, I never thought I would come back to ham radio because I took a long break from 2004 to 2018, and I've decided to come back to ham radio in 2018. So I got the IC 9700 and started to try to make some HF. I got licensed in 1995, but back then I was only into satellite, VHF, UHF, single sideband. Not much a repeater guy, but really enjoy simplex operation, but mainly in single sideband. And yeah, I was into meteor scatter and aurora propagation. And this time I thought to try at HF, but I realized that you need a very good station. I thought I could go around the world with a single wire, but when I tried to do that at the bottom of the solar cycle in 2018, I realized that I needed a little bit more, and having a very small lot, I got this compact 40-meter antenna with loading coils and capacitive half. So I'll be on the lookout for those AM frequencies a little bit lower. It would be a lot better for me for sure. And now I see the tuner is rising up on SWR, and I put my hand on it and it gets me warm. So I guess those capacitors do not like that long transmission I'm doing right now. So the entire seems to be doing fine. The ACOM 1010. I have like a 90 watt carrier and peak at around 450 watt peak with the Hermes Lite. So yeah, I talked to Ron and I talked to much Paul. VA3VJB. This is VA2CST, Claude near Montreal, Quebec. Over to you, Paul.
Okay, Claude, very good. Nice transmission, by the way. Signal readability and strength both held up nicely. VA2CST from WA3VJB. Actually, extended transmissions, what you call talking too long, are one of the features of being on AM. I was just telling a gentleman in the Corning, New York area who isn't on AM that often that the carrier plays an important role in punctuation and setting the pace of what somebody is saying. For example, I've got some notes of your transmission, and as I collect my thoughts and deliver a response, you know that I'm not done yet because the carrier is still there, and that's information. So it's a easier style of storytelling to have that sitting there like that, not only as I make remarks, but as I respond to yours. And it's nice to see that the ACOM 1010 and I suppose your wire tuner, for that matter, are all holding up to the extended transmissions. Colloquially, people sometimes call them old buzzard transmissions because it seems like people in the older demographic, I suppose, start winding up for the pitch, as they say in baseball, and it takes a while. So, what they call old buzzard transmissions are part and parcel of being on AM on HF Cloud, so don't feel any inhibition whatsoever. Okay, on the fires being will wind up being a few hundred miles away, a couple hundred miles away from Montreal, and that you're in the Laurentian mountain chain. I think I remember seeing that somewhere. My family used to take vacations to Canada when I was a little boy, and I think we went to the Laurentian Mountains as one of those trips. So it comes back to me now that I've seen that on the map before, and know your snow country there when you've got that in the winter with the snowmobiles and all that you were discussing. I think the Hermes is your better sounding radio compared to the IC 9700. I've been very impressed at the sound of the SDR transceivers from Flex Radio and also the one from Anan, Apache Labs. They sound good on transmit, and according to recordings that I've heard as emailed to me, they also sound good on receive. They're authentic. So I think you've got a winner there with both the amplifier and the Hermes Lite on AM doing the job for you, Claude. And when you mentioned that you heard me down on 80 meters, yes, that's my other hangout, is down low on 75. I have our Canadian counterparts to thank for that. The FCC, I guess about, maybe 10 or 15 years ago now, expanded the United States allocations for the phone privileged licensees. The phone bands, the sub-bands that we have in the U.S. were expanded downward to get into the 3600s. And before that, we were limited, I think, to 3800 and up. I don't think we could go below that, regardless of license class. My license class lets me go down now to 3700. But my point in tipping my hat to the Canadians was that for many years I took in conversations that your folks would have on 3715, 3715, which back in my novice days in the 1970s was actually part of our novice CW only band. So it was interesting to actually be able to hear AM there, and then in more recent years actually be able to talk to the stations in Canada who had populated that part of the band for so many years. When the FCC, our regulatory agency, enacted the new rules, a number of us across the country organized a thing called the AM Band Warming Party, both here on 40 meters and primarily on 75/80 meters, where a number of stations actually got the special event calls, the one-by-ones, and got on down low in the newly expanded part of the bands and kind of planted the flag there for AM activity. And it was very cool because we had, I guess a couple of dozen stations across the country, many of them here in the East, running one-by-one call signs in the newly opened phone portion of the band on AM. And it was right at the stroke of midnight local time when the regulations were enacted. So we all were calibrated to CHU or WWV and fired up those transmitters right when the rules took effect, Claude. So it was a nice reflection on that. So for you to have heard me down there in 3720 or 3715, please know that that's part of my tipping of my hat that you guys had established that area on AM many years before we were actually allowed to be there. Yes, I enjoy this part of the country. We've got the Chesapeake Bay, and we've got a small boat. I call it a trailer boat because we bring it home. It doesn't stay in the water. It's only a 19-foot power boat. But it allows us to explore great parts of the Chesapeake Bay, from north to Baltimore, down south to almost the Virginia Beach area. We'll take it down there on the trailer and drop it in the water there. And that's all the Chesapeake Bay area. So it's quite an expanse of water. And we very much enjoy being in that luxury of being able to live so close to that water to get out in the boat. Haven't been out more than once this season so far, though, partly because of the schedule. And the other part is because more recently the wildfires had hurt visibility so bad on the open waters of the Chesapeake Bay that a little boat like mine might have trouble seeing the shore. So we actually stayed in the past weekend because of the visibility problems that we were having. And yes, you called it correctly. I come from broadcast news gathering many years ago, and a lot of this gear I first encountered at little radio stations that I had worked at delivering the news. The audio rack, for example, includes some pieces that were of a kind I had at a little 1,000-watt AM daytime-only station when I first got out of college in the late 1970s. And by having been exposed to that kind of gear and already being on AM here in the hobby, it was a natural extension to start accumulating some of this stuff and converting it to our frequencies for a new life here on the hobby bands. So that's it in a nutshell, and I guess thanks for the flowers. It's one of those things where you learn how to manage your voice over the years, especially when delivering the news, because you only got a few things available to you. One of them is intonation, the other is pace, and what's taken away from you is loudness, because the audio processing will take care of that for you and level everything out. Just got a message from the house. I'm on the back of the property here in a building we call the Radio Lodge. And my wife is sending me text messages that she has seen a juvenile snake near the back room Oh no! So I don't know if I need to rescue a damsel in distress or whether she's just giving exclamation marks here that as she took our other dog out, she saw the snake. Anyway, I'll kick it back to you, Claude, and make sure the signal's holding up. VA2CST near Montreal, WA3VJB. High drama, high drama.
Yeah, well, if you want to go check that out and be sure everyone is okay. Yeah, the text machine, yeah. And I knew it. You have the perfect voice for that. I was sure. Well, if you weren't in broadcast, you should have been, but you just told me that. And it shows. It showed. We can clearly hear the way you speak and your intonations and just the way you speak. You're a broadcast guy. You're a broadcast guy, so that's wonderful. For me, this is all very new. I've got the Hermes probably 1 month ago. It took about a little bit more than 1 week to make everything work, as I got almost discouraged and I was ready to put that little box outside the house. But once I figured out how to parameter that software, it's a different beast. It's based out of a board that was originally designed by Apache Labs, if I'm not mistaken, and it was called Hermes. And this is a copy of that Hermes design that was by Apache Labs. And it has all the bells and whistles, almost all the bells and whistles of those Apache Lab radios, except is 1/30th of the price. That little transceiver is $269. And here, if I want to get a Apache Lab, a modern Apache Lab, it's going to cost me like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. It's not even more. It's $7,000. So a group of guys here, a couple of them run Apache Labs, and there are other guys that run those Hermes Lite, and they told me once you try that, you'll have a hard time returning to your old noisy ICOM radio. And they are right. The guy who did program the noise reduction algorithm in that software is a genius. It's amazing how well that software is able to knock out noise, and it's very well done, and it works wonderfully well. You have a very good signal, and it works very well. I hear almost no noise behind your transmission. So yeah, and I started to do some AM out of curiosity since maybe a week and a half. I guess you're my 7th or 8th contact on AM, and all the station I heard on 40 meter AM all sounded great. They all sound good, and I've decided to give it a try, and I think I like it a lot. I like it a lot, and I'm glad it sounds okay. And I think the band is shifting a little bit, might be shifting a little bit, but yeah, you sounded great, and yeah, I really enjoy AM, it seems. And yeah, I'm not sure, maybe I can try something, but this is going to be the first time I try this, but I'm not sure it's going to work. Hold on. Oh, no, it won't work. So I was about to try to record, to play back your call on 80 meter, how well it sounded. And, yeah, the file needs to be in stereo, and it is not, so it won't work. But anyway, if you want to check if everything is okay on your end, I'm going to wind down a little bit, and if you want to go check what's going on with that snake thing there, I'll let you go, Paul. WA3VJB, this is VA2CST. Over to you, Paul.
Okay, Claude. Well, I haven't gotten any more emergency text messages, so I guess she's okay. VA2CST. WA3VJB. Yeah, it was a juvenile snake that I think probably surprised her more than anything. Although I don't know how the other lab reacted to it. Her name is Katie, and she's about 3 years old, and I don't think she's encountered too many snakes before. So if she were taking her out for her final business of the evening, it's liable to really have been some high drama, as both Katie and Pam reacted to the snake on the sidewalk. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think everything's okay, but I also detect the change of the band here, where the 90 watts is not quite as strong as it was. I would like to roll out the red carpet to you to make sure you come back to this part of the hobby more often, including on 80 meters, where there's a good chance I can actually work you in the Canadian stronghold of 3715. I'd love to be able to work you there after all this time of wishing we could work there. Here's somebody who dates back and hangs out in that area, and it would be kind of neat to kind of make that connection, Claude. So good on that. And okay on the Hermes Lite being such an inexpensive transceiver. I didn't realize that. I thought all of those SDR-type transceivers were fairly pricey. And I'll have to look into that. Not that I'm interested in adopting that kind of technology, but just the fact that it would make a good portable transceiver. I've got a kit-built 5-watt AM transceiver that's called the Nouveau 75. It's the French word for new, N-O-U-V-A-V-E-A-U. The Nouveau 75 is a monobander, and it's built by a group down in the south central part of the U.S. called 4-State QRP, and it's only $125 U.S., $125 U.S., and although it's only 5 watts, I have a hunch I could probably find or craft some kind of amplifier that would also run off of 12 volts and enable me to get on the air from out on the water somewhere where we beach the boat up on a riverbank, and I could throw a random length wire out on the shore somewhere and get on the air. Although 75 meters daytime is not very good lately. You mentioned trying to get on the air at the sunspot minimum back in 2018, and I can understand what frustration that must have been. We just came through a nice 10-meter spell, 10 meters AM, from 29.0 to 29.2 before springtime, where I could work those same stations that I had mentioned in the UK and across Europe on 10 meters. And now that the season's changed, it's more of a north-south propagational pattern. And although I see a station in Argentina that's on regularly on AM, he also was talking about trying to work here on 40 meters, which would again bring us back down to 7160, which is where your two-element beam is located. So as I said, if you get a chance to hear carriers around 7160, flip it over to AM and see if it isn't some of us there in QSO, and make sure you try to join us, Claude. That would be nice. Otherwise, yeah, also look for me down low on 75. One of the other popular frequencies is early in the morning weekdays, 3705, 3705, from about 6:30 Eastern time to 8 o'clock Eastern time. And there's another group at 8 o'clock Eastern on 3720 if you have time during the weekday mornings to get on. And that's nice area down there. Lots of elbow room, not a lot of congestion, and some pretty good signals because those folks are in the northern part of the northeastern states. So they should come in fairly well there to your location in the Laurentian mountain chain. So Claude, let me say 7-3 while we've got the chance. Thank you again for the QSO. it's nice to know I exist somewhere as an MP3 or a WAV file on your transceiver. And I'll look forward to spending some more time with you on the radio. VA2CST, northwest of Montreal, WA3VJB, listening.
All right, Paul, perfect, 100%. I can see the signal going away a little bit, but you went through absolutely no problem. And you will be surprised. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. Not only it transmits well, but it receives also very good. I'm receiving right now almost probably 11.5 kilohertz wide, and it sounds beautiful. I hear every bit of your transmission. It works very, very well. Also has that pre-distortion algorithm that is used to correct all the harmonics of an amplifier, and this is built into that little $269 transceiver, and just as the big Apache Labs transceiver. So yeah, that's why I went that route and tried to see how it worked. And I'm glad I found also a bunch of nice station on AM. This is, like I said, pretty new to me. A week or so ago, I wasn't even thinking about transmitting on AM. So, unfortunately, like I said, it's sad to see that it's up here. It's completely the top of the band where my antenna is not designed to be here. But yeah, I'll definitively be sure to check a little bit lower on frequency. And as for 75 meter, unfortunately, I can only listen. I don't have the room to deploy those long wire antennas. Like I said, when I bought the place here, I never thought I would return to ham radio, but I did. So yeah, no space for 80-meter antennas. Maybe I'll have to find another solution. Don't know how, but maybe I don't know. Try to find a short version of 80-meter antenna. I'll have to check that out. So, well, it's been a pleasure finally meeting you, because I heard you multiple times. Like I said, I even have a recording of you on my desktop here, calling you, you were calling CQ, carefully tuned to, don't recall the frequency, but you were... you had the nice touch in your voice and carefully tuning the carrier. Don't recall exactly what you were saying, but yeah, you were giving a nice CQ call on 80 meters, and I got that recording on my desktop, and I kept it there because it sounded awesome. So, all right, thanks so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure, like I said, talking to you finally. I was not expecting that on 40 meters tonight, so best of luck to you. I will be able to make this happen again, and go take a look at that little Hermes Lite. You just need to go to Maker's Fab website, and you'll see how it looks, and you can order it from there with a tiny project box, and even have a tiny low-pass filter board that you can install in that little transmitter. So I think you'll be surprised how well it sounds on both receive and transmit. So 7 people, and catch you another time. Whiskey Alpha 3, Victor Juliet Bravo. This is Victor Alpha 2, Charlie Sierra Tango 7 people from Montreal, Quebec. Bye-bye.
Okay, Claude. Well, my pleasure. And I have to say, you're certainly built for AM. The extended conversation that we've been able to enjoy here, and your obvious enthusiasm for this part of the hobby, makes you cut out just right to share your company with us here many times in the future, as 40 meters will support for you. Well, we'll have to try to get down on 7160. Maybe we can both work into Europe on AM. That would be something, too. And, yeah, we can look forward to that as well. So I'll look for you again. Thank you for spending some time on the radio. I really appreciate it. And it was a very, very satisfying contact. VA2CST, good night from Annapolis, WA3BJB, now QRT.
All right, good night, Paul. Victor Alpha 3. I'm starting to be tired now. Victor Alpha 2. Charlie Sierra Tango, clear.